What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, The Creature from the Black Lagoon tells the story of these three scientists going on an expedition in the Amazon, and during this expedition, they run into the Gill-Man within his Black Lagoon, who is this half-man, half-fish, amphibian-like creature who they want to pretty much learn more about. So that's pretty much the basic premise of Creature from the Black Lagoon, so let's talk about it. I consider Creature from the Black Lagoon just like many other people do. The Creature from the Black Lagoon is pretty much the last of the universal horror monster cycle before the whole sci-fi movement kicked in. Now, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon is kind of like that. Middle of the road type of movie, where it introduces a monster, but it goes in the route of a science fiction type of movie. And I think the Gill-Man has earned his pop culture status as pretty much the last of the Universal classic monsters, and also as the beginning of the whole sci-fi movement that picked up in the 50s. So, with all that said, let's just talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon for what it is and what I think it is. I think this is a good Universal monster movie. I think that this is a very, very solid movie. I got some issues with it here and there, but overall, I think this is a very solid effort. So, let's kick it off one by one. First things first, the cast in this movie is overall very, very solid. Richard Carlson plays this lead character called David, and I think that Carlson did an okay job in the role. He gave the character of David some charisma. There's really nothing to the character of David. He comes across as just that white meat good guy. The only thing that's remotely interesting about him is that he's in a relationship with the character of Kay, played by Jane Addams. And the character of Kay is a more interesting character compared to David, because pretty much the creature's whole motivation is that he pretty much wants Kay as his lover. You know, this movie has an underlying Beauty and the Beast type of thing to it, where the Beast wants the beauty. So that's pretty much the creature's main mission, is to get Kay and pretty much be with Kay. So instantly, to me, that makes Kay a more interesting character than David. Another character who I think who is pretty good is the character of Mark, played by Richard Dennings, and the character of Mark is pretty much the antithesis of David. David is in it for the science. Mark is in it for the fame and the fortune. He's pretty much the human antagonist of the movie. And not only that, the movie kind of hints of a triangle between Mark, David, and Kay. But I do appreciate how how it was not overly emphasized. It was really, really hinted at, if anything, about Mark having some infatuation with the character of Kay. And to the movie's credit, it didn't dwell on it, but it also did not shy away from hinting and teasing at something like that as well. I mean, it gave the human characters something more to do, because if you pretty much take away the whole search for the Gill-Man and what the Gill-Man is, there's really nothing to these human characters. They're just pretty much there to move the story along, to get from point A to point B. And that's pretty much where one of my big problems comes from, is that the first half of this movie is kind of boring, and it does kind of drag until they get to the Amazon. And that's where the movie kind of picks up steam. And to Jack Arnold's credit, I thought he did a fantastic job behind the director's chair. This is a visually beautiful looking movie, and it's really a shame that it was not shot in color. This movie was originally supposed to be shot in color until the decision was made to make it in black and white, and I think going the black and white route is a shame. I think they should have just spent the money to put this movie in color, because the way this movie is shot, it would have looked absolutely spectacular from a visual standpoint if it was shot in color. How it is in black and white, it's a good looking movie. It's really well shot. The underwater sequences for its time, really, really well done and very, very innovative from a 1950s perspective. I thought Jack Arnold did a fantastic job behind the director's chair. I think the cinematography in this movie is really well done as well. The whole look of the Gill-Man, this is a very iconic look. I love the look of the Gill-Man. It has this ferocious, monstrous quality to it, and I really, really enjoyed that. Like I said, I think one of the strong points of this movie is the Gill-Man's infatuation with the character of Kay, because pretty much throughout the entire movie, he's trying to get his hands on Kay, And the scene that really sold the Gill-Man's infatuation with Kay is now the famous scene where Kay is swimming in the Amazon River and the Gill-Man's right underneath her swimming along with her. And that really is where, and that entire scene is shot beautifully. That whole scene is iconic, it's legendary, and it's shot with precision. Got to give Jack Arnold so much credit for that. He made that scene look gorgeous and beautiful, which it did. And that's great stuff. And like I said, the more interesting part of this movie is the Gill-Man's infatuation with the character of Kay, and that's actually where, David and Mark, they start to become a little bit more interesting characters because now they gotta like fight off this creature. You know, David of course does not want to kill it, but Mark on the other hand he does want to kill it. But in so doing, the creature attacks Mark and pretty much he gets badly injured and pretty much Richard Denning is out for the rest of the movie. Going into the climax, where the Gill-Man does get his hands on Kay and they go into his underwater cavern, in which two other guys who were with them on the ship during the expedition, they go to this cave and they pretty much shoot the Gill-Man, and we're led to believe that the Gill-Man is actually dead. And that's pretty much how the movie ends. Is kind of like it's kind of like an underwhelming ending. The Gill-Man gets shot a couple of times. He walks and then swims and he just sinks. It's kind of underwhelming to an end to the movie, but I guess it is what it is. The rest of the movie, aside from the opening, which aside from the first maybe 20 minutes, which is kind of slow and just there for setup, the whole section when they get to the Amazons, where this movie really starts to pick up steam, and I really do like how they made the Gill-Man into a threat, and I like how we don't see him. Correction. We don't always see a full body of the Gill-Man, like especially in the first few moments. We see his hand coming up out of the river. We see his feet dragging on the floor. We see his arm when he goes to attack somebody, in which he does. And I like how it's described that when the Gill-Man kills, it's almost as if like a wild jaguar or four-legged creature is doing all the killing, and it's your mind's made to look like it's a bloody, ferocious mess. So I like how they added that level of intimidation factor to the Gill-Man. But I also like how they added a little bit more of a softer side to the Gill-Man. Like I said, when he has the infatuation with the Kay character. That's where we get to see the more softer side of the Gill-Man. So the Gill-Man's actually a very multifaceted character when you look at it, and he's just a monster. But there's a lot to him, and I thought that was really well done from a writing standpoint and from a directing standpoint. The Gill-Man really is the star of this movie, and the human characters, they're fine in their roles, but they're not really the more interesting parts. Alright, so with all that being said, I'm going to give The Creature from the Black Lagoon a solid 8 out of 10. I do overall like this movie. I think it's really, really good, and it works by itself, but I think while the beginning is not horrible, it does kind of drag and is kind of boring. The whole section when they get to the Amazon is where the movie really picks up steam. The ending is nothing to be desired about, but it's not horrible either. But what this movie makes up with two weak things, it has a lot of good things for it as well. So yeah, those are overall my thoughts on Creature from the Black Lagoon. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.